This is a fascinating and wild river, and although we no longer see mammoth or black panthers along its banks, there is still an incredible biodiversity to this place today. These waters, although tinted brown, are also clean and clear. Many tiny creatures swim these waters or even dance along its surface. These swirling pockets of water beetles are so mesmerizing. Tiny larvae hunt for even tinier prey, like this caddisfly nymph. Other nymphs emerge from these waters, clinging to cypress knees to transform into my favorite insect of all time, the dragonfly. These June beetles seem to be enjoying themselves. This horse lubber grasshopper is the largest grasshopper species found in the Carolinas. And can you guess what our state insect is? The Carolina praying mantis. These fascinating mantids practice sexual cannibalism, where the larger female often catches and eats the male after reproduction. At nighttime, the serenades of katydids and crickets sound throughout the swamps. I guess this common house spider is not a fan of that music. This large golden silk orb weaver is also enjoying her meal, as a diminutive male waits for his opportunity behind her. Like the mantis, he better be careful that he doesn't end up on his spouse's plate. Typically, you would imagine seeing dung beetles on the African savanna, but a few species, such as this humpback dung beetle, can be found along Black River. Of course, as we paddled down the river, we saw plenty of bees enjoying the many flowering plants, as well as many large hornet nests, which we steered far away from. As we dip back below the surface, we find an underwater world alive with small minnows and fish. This river has a wide diversity of fish species. This long-nosed gar was unafraid of my presence, and in fact, he seemed curious as he approached and nudged my kayak. Bluegill, crappie, bass, and sunfish are also common targets for fishermen as they float down Black River. On our third night on this river, we caught and released 2 blue catfish. These fish will eat almost anything and can grow up to 5 feet in length. Another river creature that sometimes finds itself on a local's plate is the American bullfrog. I can attest that fresh frog legs are a native delicacy, that the people on the Black River have enjoyed this for thousands of years. They taste like something between chicken and fish. Yellow-bellied sliders were one of my favorite river creatures to try and catch growing up here. They were a common food source for early peoples, and cooter stew is still something that can be found on rural menus. I wasn't quite sure if these two were in their mating dance or if they were fighting over a mate. Aside from turtles, the most common animal that we saw on our paddle was the brown water snake. Although we paddled downriver during late fall, on each sunny day these non-venomous serpents could be seen all along the river, basking in the rays. Another much larger snake that we happened upon was this beautiful yellow rat snake. They live out here in the swamps, in the forests. These snakes can climb just about any vertical surface, any tree out here. And like the name suggests, they feed off of rats and small rodents. Look at him sitting there, tasting the air. He does not care that we are right here underneath him at all. These are very docile snakes. They are not aggressive species. I can probably try to pick this guy up and handle him, but I'm not going to do so. I'm going to leave him be, leave him alone. He actually gave me quite a scare when he came across the water. He came right past my kayak, and I had to swipe at him with the paddle just because at the first glance I didn't quite know what he was. Beautiful creature. They're an important part of the ecology out here. They're an important predator. They also could be prey. Ospreys or eagles have been known to capture snakes and feed on them just like this one here. But he is so gorgeous. Notice as he kind of slides through the limbs, his body can contort, wrap around different branches. They have a very distinctive yellow-orange coloring. They have 4 horizontal stripes that go down the length of their body, so they're easy to identify, and they are non-venomous. So anytime you see one of these yellow-striped yellow rat snakes, do not kill it, do not worry. They mean you no harm. They're actually going to take care of the rodents, they're going to take care of the pests, and they are a safe snake to enjoy. The yellow rat snake. There is another large reptile that calls this river home, an ancient creature that was swimming these waters even during the time of the great mammoths and before that, dinosaurs, the American alligator. Being the largest reptile in North America, alligators can grow up to 16 feet in length and live up to 100 years in the wild. They are ambush predators, feeding upon fish, turtles, birds, or even small and large mammals unfortunate enough to find themselves too close to the water. Despite the fact that alligators can indeed kill and eat an adult human, and that they are found in these waters year-round, I don't have much of a fear of them. Growing up upon our coastal rivers means growing up with alligators. Unless it's a female protecting her nest of eggs, the age-old adage is true. They are more afraid of you. Despite being the apex predator of this river, the alligator is not invulnerable. Alligator hunting has been an age-old sport along Black River, and each year, more and more of the largest and oldest gators are shot and taken from our waters. I hope that I never see the day when the last of the 13 and 14-foot giants are gone from this river. Black River attracts a great many species of birds, such as songbirds, swallowtail kites, woodpeckers, osprey, wading birds, waterfowl, and eagles. Migratory waterfowl have long played a special role on Black River, as duck hunting for survival and later recreation is a time-honored tradition here. Duck hunters purchase the duck stamp prior to hunting, which is one of the great sources of funding that helps to protect and preserve wetlands all across our nation. Waterfowl hunting was not always limited to game birds, though. During the early days of European colonization, herons and snowy egrets were prized for their beautiful feathers. The demand for feathers to decorate hats and clothing of the rich aristocracy almost drove some of our beloved wading birds to extinction. And in the late 1800s, in fact, the great egret population declined so much that possibly only a single rookery site along the Santee River is responsible for their survival and bounce back. Great blue herons are another beautiful wading bird commonly seen along Black River. They stand about 4 feet tall and can have a 6.5-foot wingspan. As we paddled down the river, we would often startle a heron hunting along the bank. It would leap into flight and go downstream, and in a short while, we'd catch back up again and startle it into flight once more. Aside from the great blue herons and the great egrets, we saw tricolored herons, night herons, and even a green heron sitting upon her nest with a young chick. The anhinga, or sometimes called snakebird or snakeneck, is a common diving bird found all along the river. These birds dive deep underwater to catch small fish and prey with a very sharp beak. Unlike many other diving birds, the anhinga does not have water-repellent feathers. When it dives, its dense bones and wetted feathers allow it to have a neutral buoyancy, so it can remain fully submerged and hunt for longer underwater. When they emerge from the water, they can often be seen picking through their damp feathers and basking in the suns with wings spread wide, drying themselves out. This is the barred owl, a common and curious raptor that preys on small rodents as it silently glides through the pine forest. These birds are notable for their "who cooks for you" calls that can be heard echoing through these cypress swamps at dusk. Experienced naturalists can call these ghostly birds and often get a hoot or a cackle in return. Another larger owl found on the Black River is the great horned owl. Don't let this adorable down-covered chick fool you. It will grow up to become a fierce bird of prey. I can remember as a young boy looking across the river at sunset and seeing a silhouette of a great horned owl perched in a tall pine. If the hoots and cackles of owls is my favorite bird song, the chittering of grackles and songs of red-winged blackbirds are a close second. These birds form into large flocks as they feed on cones in the pine canopy. The dozens of cries and calls will echo through the trees, a beautiful cacophony, and then suddenly, as one, it will cease. You'll hear the whoosh of hundreds of wings as the entire flock takes into flight and heads off to find another group of trees to feed on. The search for wildlife gets a bit more difficult when we try to turn our attention to our native mammals. So first, we'll take a look at our common rodent, the gray squirrel. These small rodents feed on nuts, berries, acorns, and even small invertebrates and amphibians, reptiles, or birds. Raccoons are also frequently seen hunting and gathering along the riverbed, or sneaking into campsites after dark. Beaver signs are very common while paddling down the river, but spotting the elusive animal itself is a bit more tricky. Our patience and attention would pay off as we spotted this guy hanging out near Mingo Creek. Beavers are dam and nest builders. They will strip small trees, carry them off to a site to build whatever structure they want to build. And along our voyage, we were able to pick up a few pieces of this expertly carved beaver wood as souvenirs to take home. As the beaver is the largest North American rodent, the river otter is the largest member of the weasel family. Otter populations thrive in habitats such as this Black River. They feed upon any aquatic organism that they can catch, such as mollusks, crayfish, fish, amphibians, turtles, snakes, and even any small birds or mammals that they can catch. River otters used to be found all across North America, but these shy creatures are especially vulnerable to the impacts of environmental pollution and habitat loss. Despite a declining national population, river otters seem to be doing very well here on Black River, due to the untouched nature of this place. Larger mammals can also be found in the forested lands and swamps surrounding Black River. Invasive wild hogs, whose ancestors escaped from European settlers, have become a force of destruction in South Carolina. These large and dangerous animals dig up and consume anything that they can find and cause vast damage to both pristine habitats and cultivated farmland alike. Hogs are hunted like the native white-tailed deer, but even these efforts to curb their numbers aren't seeming to work. The white-tailed deer is probably the hunter's most prized prey along Black River. These ruminants are the last of the large hoofed grazing animals seen in this part of the world. Due to practical management and hunting laws, their populations have been steady, and in 2021, the South Carolina whitetail population was estimated to be around 730,000 deer. This shows that an ethical and sustainable hunting culture along this river is strong, and that the sales of ammunition, licenses, and tags have gone a long way towards preserving deer habitats and keeping population numbers high. Before European settlement, whitetails had to contend with red wolves and eastern cougar predation, but today their natural predators are far more limited. Gray foxes are small and elusive canids native to South Carolina. Smaller than their non-native cousins, the red fox, they are tree dwellers, feeding on rodents, insects, amphibians, reptiles, and any small creatures it can catch. A larger canine is now found along the Black River, the coyote. It is not exactly known what brought coyotes into the Carolinas, but likely they migrated eastward as deer populations rose after the decline of red wolves and eastern cougars. Over the course of its history, Black River has been home to American lions, Smilodon, eastern cougar, and the famous black panther. But today, only one wild feline remains, the red lynx, or as we call it, the bobcat. These are one of the most elusive animals here, but on occasion you will find an unfortunate bobcat lying by a rural roadside. One afternoon, my dad brought home one such carcass, and its terrifying scowl would occupy a prime spot in the freezer for a decade or more, and was the subject for many oohs and ahs during sleepovers or visits. And finally, Ursus americanus, the American black bear. This magnificent beast is our largest native land mammal left, and despite their wide range across this continent, they are an absolute treasure of this river. Black bears will eat almost anything edible and can grow up to 600 pounds and stand over 7 feet tall. Although while provoked they are the most dangerous animal out here, black bear attacks are almost unheard of on Black River. In fact, they were once prized as a valuable food source, as a large black bear could feed a family throughout the entire winter, and their fat content would render down into valuable bear grease.